week 2 Mojo player props and our upset picks. Now, we're going to start off with the player props, but before we do that, we're just going to explain to you guys what Mojo Fantasy is. So, Mojo Fantasy is a brand new DFS app that Mojo has created. It's available in 19 states: California, Texas, Florida, the big ones. And right here is a screenshot of how Mojo Fantasy looks. We have our own exclusive contest on the app. It's called Pick a Side NFL Kickoff. It has all the Sunday games, $10 entry. You use code PAS, you will get a deposit match on whatever you put into the app up to $100. The contestants in this contest is up to 50 only, and they're giving away $1,000 in prizes, which means that out of the 50 people that join that put in $10, that's a $500 pool. Mojo is going to be generous enough to add another $500 on top of it. Now, yesterday on Thursday, Drew, Riv, and I made our Mojo DFS picks. I had Kirk Cousins over 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Lock
That
it.
hit. Drew, Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown.
Lock
That
it.
hit. Riv, AJ Brown over 75.5 receiving yards. And this is the thing. I picked Riv's prop because he wasn't nowhere to be found. It was between Devontae Smith and it was between AJ Brown. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna just go with AJ Brown, the wide receiver one. And Devontae Smith ended up having the far better game and would have hit the player prop had I picked him.
I see why Riv didn't show up today.
And now this is how Mojo Fantasy works. I'm gonna show you guys a video. You start with $500 Mojo bucks in your portfolio. Once you enter the contest, you go to pick your picks, and there's gonna have 3 sections: Riv's pick, Drew's pick, and Joel's pick. Those are all the picks that we're going to mention on the show today. And then it's followed by all the props from the other games happening on Sunday. So you enter a contest, you choose up to 4 player props. And if you are one of the leaders in the leaderboard in terms of your portfolio, then you win some money. So let's get on to these player props. Week 2 player props, Drew. Who you got?
So first and foremost, credit to these guys for, well, let me say one of them for Mike Evans getting into the end zone last week and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers upsetting Minnesota, having 10 targets, 6 receptions for 60 yards, get into the end zone. That was an impressive feat in itself. I think Mike Evans is going to be on a revenge tour almost for the fact that Tampa Bay are not willing to give him the contract that he wants. So he's going to go out there every single week and take it personally. And this week he is going up against the Chicago Bears defense that is very, very forgiving. They're going to go and they're going to allow him to do whatever he wants. And regardless of that fact, Baker Mayfield is going to force feed Mike Evans. Obviously, you respect Chris Godwin, but Mike Evans is the number 1 target, and he is going, and his prop, 53.5 receiving yards. I think that he should easily get that one. Next is going to be Russ's over of 20.5 passing completions. Joshua Dobbs had over 20.5 passing completions versus the Washington Commanders this past Sunday. Russ is a well better quarterback than he is. Russ had 27 completions against the Raiders secondary. I think that with Jerry Jeudy coming back, there should be a lot more explosiveness. There should be a lot more efficiency. And I believe that Russ will be the beneficiary of that 20.5. And especially, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's at 44 cents right now, which is the lowest of the 3 props that I'm allowing you to take a look at under my name. And the last one's going to be King Henry, 87.5 rush yards versus the Chargers. The Chargers defense is going to be up there for one of the worst, and particularly their rush defense. They're not going to have to face Miami every single week. Thank God for that. I'm sure they wouldn't love that by any means, especially in 2023. However, you look at that game versus the Saints, they relied too heavily upon Ryan Tannehill, and Tajay Spears did outsnap Derrick Henry. Going up against the Chargers, there should be a clear game plan. Let's give the ball to Derrick. Let's allow him to dominate our offense, allow him to dominate the line of scrimmage, and really impose his will and take over this game. I think that that's a great line, 87.5. He's going to see a ton of opportunity. These are easily my favorite picks of the week.
I've got a weird line. Matthew Stafford over 33.5 passing attempts. Set at 57.
John, are you allowed to gamble?
Yes.
All right.
Let's dive in. The Rams last week didn't rush the football too well, but Stafford had one of his best games as a Ram. He didn't throw any touchdowns, but he was dicing apart that Seattle secondary. And the 49ers front 7 last week was unbelievable versus Steelers stopping the run. Drake Jackson's developing. And altogether, I think that secondary is one that the Rams are going to look to target. Stafford threw the ball 38 times last week. I'm expecting that to continue even with Cooper Kupp being out, although they're saying he could be back for week 5, so we'll see.
Mojo week 2 player props for me, Bijan Robinson over 55.5 rushing yards. Last week, he had 56 yards on 10 carries. In this game, he's facing a Green Bay Packers team who I am still not sure how good they are at stopping the run. This is going to be a great test for the Falcons offense, and Bijan Robinson should get more carries in this game. And whenever he has the ball, he is a threat to take it to the house. Next one, Sam Howell under 203.5 passing yards versus that Broncos defense. Last week, he finished with 202 passing yards. He's going up against a better defense, even though they have some liabilities. And Sam Howell, to me, still hasn't impressed me. I'm going under on his line right now. And then my third one, Joe Burrow over 271.5 passing yards. He just had the worst game of his career. He's going to bounce back. The Ravens secondary is hobbled. Marlon Humphrey's out. Marcus Williams is out. This secondary is really banged up, and I think Joe Burrow is going to light them up through the air. I think you get 300 this game, but I'm going with 271.5, going over on those passing yards. And for Riv's props, because he can't be here today, but he sent me them through text. Lamar Jackson over his 272.5 passing plus rushing yards.
I like that.
Bijan Robinson, he took the same line as me, over 55.5 rushing yards. And Michael Pittman Jr. over 4.5 receptions versus the Texans.